Hello everyone, this is Oregon's Kid Governor Raga Mandala, and I want to welcome you all to my new series, Career Corner. In this series, I'll be interviewing a variety of career professionals. The objective is for students like me to find out what a professional career looks like, what we can learn from the experience of the experts, and in the process, find out what career path is right for us. A 6th grader talking about careers already, you might be wondering? Well, it's never too early to start planning out our career. So, come along, join me at Career Corner and learn from the experts. Welcome to the very first episode of Career Corner. I have a very special guest today for this episode. She recently retired from the Oregon State Secretary's Executive Office as Director of Civics Education. She's also responsible for managing the Kid Governor program in Oregon, and that's how I had the opportunity to meet with her. Prior to this, she worked as State Archivist for 14 years, served the Archives Division for many years before that. She also holds a Master's in History from the State University of New York at Albany and is a certified archivist and certified records manager. Born and raised in Buffalo, New York, she's a die-hard Bills fan who hopes to see the team win a Super Bowl in her lifetime. Please welcome Mary Beth Herkert. Mary Beth, thank you so much for taking your time to join me in this new series.
Thank you, Raga. I look forward to it.
So, you grew up in Buffalo, New York, and you're now in Oregon State Capitol, all the way across the country. Could you please take us through your educational and professional background?
Sure. Well, I grew up in, like you said, in Buffalo, New York. And then when it came time to go to college, I really wanted to be an archaeologist. And so I went to Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, because they had a really good anthropology department. But when I took my very first archaeology class as a freshman, I realized there was no way I had the patience to sit in a pit and dig with a dental pick for the rest of my life. But I really enjoyed cultural anthropology. And so I really focused on that and American history, and especially Native Americans. So when I was a junior, between my junior and senior years in college, I got to go on an anthropology field trip. And we went to the southwest of the United States, and we got to visit a number of tribes, including the Hopi, the Navajo, a number of the Pueblo tribes. And
That's cool.
And we even walked down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and spent time down there with the Havasupai Indians. And if you ever get a chance to do that, you need to do that because it's a really cool trip.
That sounds fun.
Yeah. So I fell in love with cultural anthropology and really enjoyed that experience, learning about different cultures, because each tribe is different. And so it's I'm sure not unlike when you come from different parts of India, that each area has different traditions,
cultures, and
So but really there wasn't a whole lot of job opportunity to deal with just cultures. And so one of my professors at Ball State turned me on to archives. And so I went in there, and there's where all the documents lived that kind of told stories about people and how they did things and that sort of thing. So that I fell in love with that. Plus, you got to play part detective, and always been a curious sort of why things are the way they are. Probably got that from my dad, because my dad was a history teacher, and he liked teaching history, warts and all. He didn't sanitize history. He taught it the way it was. So then I went to graduate school at SUNY Albany, and while I was there, I worked at the New York State Archives. And then it came time, once I got my master's degree, it came time to find a real job. And so on a whim, I applied for this one-year grant position at the University of Oregon, and lo and behold, I got it. So I moved out here for a year thinking oh, that's okay, then I'll find something else. But when the year was up at the University of Oregon, a job at the Oregon State Archives, because they just hired a new state archivist, came about. So that's how I got here, and that's how I got working for the state archives.
That's amazing. You just
Yeah,
started.
I told people I moved out here for years. I moved out here for years, a very long year.
And then that's how you got this job. That's amazing.
Yep.
So, what does an archivist do?
Well, what an archivist does is, especially if you're working for the state, it takes care of all the government information. So all the information about all the state and local government agencies, the state archives is responsible for identifying what information is historical, that is what's going to be a benefit for future generations, and then what stuff is needed for, let's say, to complete their financial records or some legal issue or something. And so they have a less life expectancy, and then they get thrown away. So it's up to the archivist to look at how each agency works, that what they do, how they create things, and the information they're creating, and then save the valuable information, and then just retain the rest of the information as long as it's needed.
Cool. Thanks for that. What are the most gratifying aspects and challenges you saw when you were working for the state?
Okay, the gratifying aspects is just knowing that you're responsible for saving the history of Oregon. So that for me was really important. But I think the other thing that was gratifying for me was getting to learn how the state works, meeting with local governments.
I'm glad that you shared that. I really enjoyed visiting the city hall in Newburgh for that city council meeting. Yeah.
City government's fun. I loved going to the different parts of Oregon and working with the county clerks or the city recorders. That was some of the most fun that I ever had. Just the opportunities. And then I think too, the other thing that was so much fun is to watch how much the profession changed from 1984 when I first started till 2019 when I then flipped over to civics education, because it became less about history and more about managing information and then providing information to the citizens of Oregon. So while you're still preserving the history, that never became unimportant, but it was just the amount of information that's been generated because of technology, and then having to learn about all the different technologies and having to deal with them. So then the most challenging things then would be technology, because I have seen so many different formats come and go, and then you don't have the equipment or the software to read the information anymore. So it becomes very difficult to then preserve information knowing that it can't be read. And then the other things that were, I'm not a big political person, so sometimes politics got in the way. And that became very frustrating for me because I just wanted to do what was right and not worry about politics. And then the other thing too is budget. The state always needs a budget to help people like who you're trying to help through your issue and platform. But there's also other things that need to be done too. So it's always that fine balancing line between having enough money to do the things behind the scenes that help with issues like you're doing, and then having enough money to put towards those issues.
Yeah, it's like budget cuts at school. They don't have that amount of money to, get all the supplies and all that stuff. So what personality traits do you think are necessary to be successful for working in the civics education?
Well, for civics education, I think the personality traits that you need to have are, you have to be tenacious. So you can't give up just because you hit a roadblock or somebody says no. I think you have to have the evidence. So it comes back to being that curiosity or detective kind of thing where you can get all the information that you need to support why you think civics education is important. You can't just listen to the 30-second sound bites or get your information off of Wikipedia or off the internet, whatever. You have to look at the whole picture. So you have to be really good at researching and then understanding the issues and what needs to happen. But you also have to be a good storyteller, because with civics education, now when I went to school, we learned about government, we learned about the importance of issues and things like that. But then as time went on, they kind of dropped those things. And so then you sit there and you say, well, does that have a direct impact on what we see happening in society today? So you have to be able to prove that while you're working towards it.
Curious and tenacious, viewers, I hope you're listening. What advice do you have for kids that aspire to follow your footsteps and work for the state?
Well, I think you have to be willing, you have to have that desire within to do good, because you are a public servant. It's different than going to work for a big corporation where you're going to make lots of monies and you just do what the corporation wants you to do, or something like that. I'm not saying corporations are bad, but it's just different culture than when you work for the state. You're not going to make big money. So you have to love what you do. And then you're always going to hit roadblocks. You're always going to hit things that, where people are going to say no, or we don't have the budget. Like you were saying with schools, even now with the pandemic, I'm sure you would love to be in the classroom learning, but you can't. And so you have to figure out, how are you going to move forward in the way that's best? And, like for Kid Governor, this year, we're going to have to change a little how we do things so we can continue with Kid Governor. But the lessons are going to have to be able to be done online as well as in a classroom, because there are kids who aren't going to be able to do it in the classroom.
Interesting, yeah. So tell us more about the Kid Governor program. How are the fifth graders going to be voting for the new Kid Governor for the year 2020 to 2021?
Well, it's interesting you ask, because we have been meeting all summer with the national program, and they have come up with kind of how to do this in two forms, whether you're in class or online. They've set it up so that if they have to vote, they would vote, their teachers would hold the vote and then record, like in a Zoom meeting, the teacher would have everybody vote and then record them online for us. But I think more importantly is how do you do the civics education lesson? Because as you know, this isn't a political program, it's an educational program, and you're learning about how government works and how different things happen. So it's to make sure that kids don't lose that they're still learning while they're doing Kid Governor.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth, for taking your time and sharing your beautiful career journey. I found it super inspiring, and I'm hoping my viewers do too. Thanks again. Congratulations on your retirement, and I hope that you have a great time.
Thank you, Raga. I just want to say you've been a fantastic Kid Governor and a great ambassador for fifth graders, not only in Oregon, but across the country. Your efforts and your fundraising and your energy is to be admired. And I really love working with you.
I really appreciate that. That's it for the very first episode of Career Corner, in which we learned that if you love people and different cultures, then anthropology and civics education may be a great career choice for you. Don't forget to subscribe down below, hit the bell icon so you don't miss any Career Corner or any other RFK videos I'll be cooking up. Get that? Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.